Welcome back to the deep dive. Turn down the lights, maybe grab whatever comforting beverage gets you through the late hours, because tonight, we are officially sinking into the weirdest, most universally shared human experience. That feeling that hits you like a sudden existential slap. We are talking about déjà vu.
It really is the brain's greatest parlor trick, isn't it? That split-second feeling where your entire system just goes, wait, hold up, I've done this before.
Yes.
This exact moment, this conversation, this lighting. And when we say universal, we really mean it. Our reading suggests that something like 97% of people have felt this bizarre little hiccup at least once.
But 97%, so basically everyone.
It's truly the human brain's most common and maybe its most confusing glitch.
I love that. The brain's most common glitch. Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Look, tonight we are not just going to break down the clinical side, though we absolutely have the receipts on all the cool science. Tonight, we are leaning into our core identity. We are storytellers. We are diving into the most compelling, the wildest personal narratives we collected, where people swore their déjà vu wasn't just some misfire.
No, not at all. They felt it was like a cosmic warning, a literal flash of precognition.
Exactly.
And that is the essential difference, isn't it? It's the gap between saying, wow, this restaurant layout feels familiar, and having that gut-wrenching conviction that you know the next 6 words coming out of your friend's mouth, and that if you don't act, something catastrophic is about to happen.
Right.
That absolute emotional certainty people report in those moments, it's just staggering.
It changes everything. It changes your perception of free will, really. So here's the roadmap for tonight, the best of the best you'll hear later on.
Okay.
We're going to share the unsettling high-stakes story of the guy who used a dream flash, what we call déjà vu, to swerve around a deadly red light runner and cheat death.
That one is unbelievable.
We have the incredible tale of the Boy Scout who dodged a falling log because his brain flashed a warning like a second too early. And we'll tackle the creepy instance of 2 people having the exact same déjà vu.
At the same time.
At the exact same time. It's like psychological synchronicity at its finest.
And we'll also discuss the surprisingly comforting side of this, including the cultural view that maybe déjà vu is less of a neurological error and more like the universe giving you a reassuring pat on the shoulder.
I like that.
Just saying, you're good. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Okay, so let's establish a bit of a foundation before we get completely lost in all the weirdness. Most of us know the classic French translation, already seen, but déjà vu is so much more holistic than just, seeing something.
No, absolutely. Our research confirms it's defined as this fleeting but incredibly powerful false sense of familiarity. Scientists often call it an incongruence.
Incongruence, right.
Yeah, where you consciously know you haven't been here, yet your entire physical and cognitive system is absolutely convinced this moment is a repeat.
And that sense of incongruence is what makes it so unnerving.
It is. It's an immersive multisensory experience.
Yeah.
Think about those classic examples we read about. You could be, deep in conversation, arguing about the best way to load a dishwasher.
A classic.
A classic, right. And suddenly you're hit with the sensation that you've had this exact talk before, down to the specific frustration in your voice and the way your partner is leaning. You feel like you know the next sentence before it leaves their lips.
It's never just a picture. It's the entire scene. It could be walking into a brand new coffee shop, one that just opened down the street, and the specific combination of the low lighting, the smell of burnt sugar, and the muffled sound of a specific song just slams you with a tidal wave of recognition. It's a full sensory overload where the memory retrieval system has been, momentarily hijacked.
Hijacked is the perfect word.
Mm-hmm.
And if we try to boil down the science behind why this happens, because the brain is supposedly this ridiculously sophisticated machine, the core mechanism is actually a surprisingly simple failure of internal communication.
Like a crossed wire.
It's essentially a core misfire. Yeah, like a crossed wire in your internal filing cabinet.
The brain is typically so meticulous about tagging new information, right? So where is this catastrophic hiccup actually occurring?
We're looking at a dysfunctional connection between 2 absolutely critical regions, primarily deep within the temporal lobe.
Yeah.
So you have the temporal lobe itself, which is the region responsible for memory recollection, recognition, and that feeling of familiarity.
So it answers the question, do I know this thing?
Exactly. Then you have the hippocampus, which is the structure responsible for taking in all this new information and consolidating it into a memory. It's the intake valve.
Okay.
When these 2 parts miscommunicate, It just blurs the line between a new experience and an old established memory.
So instead of the hippocampus filing the current moment, the conversation we're having right now, as new input, the temporal lobe accidentally tags it as an old file that's being retrieved and played back.
That's it. It's labeling incoming data as outgoing data.
Wow.
Precisely. To use a great analogy from our reading, memory is sometimes described as working like an old analog tape recorder.
Okay.
Normally, when you perceive something, it should first be converted to memory by a recording head, and then later, memory recall is handled by a separate reproducing head.
Right, two different functions.
Two different functions. In déjà vu, that sensory information is somehow simultaneously recorded and reproduced. You are perceiving the new moment and remembering the new moment at the exact same time.
In real time.
In real time.
Yep.
It's the brain mistakenly wrapping the current experience and the retrieval mechanism together, saying, I know this because I'm watching it happen right now, and also I'm watching it happen again.
That conflicting internal signal is what creates that shocking, dizzying feeling. The absolute conflict between the conscious knowledge that this is the first time you've been here and the neurological certainty that this file is ancient history.
It's maddening.
And it only lasts, what, usually a few seconds?
A brief, intense burst. And while occasional déjà vu is absolutely non-pathological and happens to healthy people, our reading pointed to some really interesting, subtle commonalities among people who might be more susceptible to having these flashes.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. It's not necessarily linked to any specific demographic, but rather traits like having a high level of education, traveling frequently, or being someone who vividly remembers their dreams.
Which, if you think about it through the lens of that database analogy, makes a lot of sense.
It does.
If the brain is a massive data library,
Yep.
and you are constantly shoving more complex information into it through advanced learning, exposure to diverse environments via travel, or complex neurological processing during sleep, you're increasing the sheer volume and complexity of files.
So more input just means a greater statistical chance for a random cross-reference.
Exactly, a glitch or a weird indexing error that triggers the familiarity alarm.
It's the brain overloading its own search engine. It's logical, but it definitely punctures the romantic idea that we're all secretly time travelers.
It does a bit. And before we jump into the stories, we should probably quickly acknowledge that the general term déjà vu is often used as this universal catch-all. But our experiences can be much more specific.
Right. There are flavors to this weirdness.
An entire family of déjà experiences, yeah.
And the most common flavor, the one that really includes that powerful emotional sense of precognition and involves all your senses, is déjà vécu.
Which literally translates to already lived.
Already lived.
Yeah, déjà vécu is the holistic one. It's not just the visual landscape. It's the sense of the whole moment, including the thoughts you're having and the mood you're in.
Yeah.
This is the type that makes you feel like you are literally stepping back into a scene from a past life.
Or a movie you haven't seen yet. Then you have déjà visité, which means already visited. This one focuses purely on spatial familiarity.
Right, like you're walking through a maze of ancient streets in a foreign city or a stranger's incredibly cluttered house, and you somehow know exactly where the bathroom is.
Yeah. Or why the furniture is placed in that specific odd arrangement. It's spatial mapping gone rogue.
It's recognizing the layout or the architecture, even if you've never seen this specific facade before. And finally, the most compelling type for our purposes tonight, which we'll dive into deeply, is déjà rêvé.
Already drums.
Already dreamt. The belief that the source memory comes from a sleeping state.
And that, my friend, leads us perfectly into the most potent and compelling experiences. The ones that convince people they are absolutely seeing the future. Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. The truly compelling narratives are the ones where the feeling of prediction isn't just some vague sense of familiarity. It is the defining immediate feature.
Yeah.
People are not just vaguely remembering. They feel they can predict the immediate next moment, word for word, gesture for gesture.
And this level of conviction, this raw, sudden knowledge, is so strong that it forces them to change their current behavior. Sometimes in ways that are, deeply embarrassing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as we'll see, life-altering.
Let's start with that classic conversational déjà vu. This one was shared by a user. She was chatting with her close friend who was recounting a funny story about something that happened that afternoon.
Okay?
Normal stuff.
Totally normal. And out of nowhere, she was hit by the feeling, that unmistakable heavy sensation of déjà vu.
So she immediately interrupted her friend, right?
Immediately, completing the next sentence with perfect rhythm and inflection, saying something like, "Wait, you told me this already, remember?"
Assuming her friend was just recounting an old anecdote.
That is the key, right. The initial rational assumption is that the friend must have relayed the story before, and she just forgot the context. But the friend was genuinely shocked because she had just experienced the event the day before, and this was the very first time she was sharing it with anyone. The user had to realize in real time that she hadn't heard it before. She had somehow remembered the exact words, the tone, and the dramatic pause from a conversation that had never previously occurred.
It's like hearing a song you've never listened to, but knowing every single lyric, every single chord change, and knowing exactly when the bridge is going to hit.
That's a perfect analogy.
That level of specificity is what makes these narratives so sticky in the brain.
And it gets even more intense, more like a superpower movie montage when the person actively tries to use the foresight.
Oh, yeah.
Take the brilliant story of the elementary school kid in the cafeteria. This is truly fantastic. He's walking into the chaos of the lunchroom, sitting down with his regular crew, and suddenly that specific hot déjà vu feeling snaps into place, focused on the few seconds immediately following his arrival.
And he realizes, oh my God, I know exactly how this interaction goes.
Exactly. And being a third grader who hasn't yet learned the humility of being wrong, he decided to test his brand new prescient ability.
Of course he did.
He focused on his friend who was just about to turn and greet him. He mimicked the movement he remembered the friend making, and spoke the words he remembered the friend saying, and even predicted the friend's subsequent reaction to being copied.
Wait, slow down. So he beat his friend to the punch, perfectly reciting the friend's intended greeting,
Yeah.
and then reciting the friend's reaction to the recitation.
Yes.
That's next-level mind games for a third grader.
He copied it word for word, movement by movement. The friend was trying to greet him with something specific, like, "Hey, John, what's up? Wow, we said the exact same thing. Oh my God, stop it." And the user mirrored that entire sequence perfectly. He said he felt like a superhero in his own mind.
I bet.
The déjà vu stopped right there, but for those few seconds, he had absolutely proven the memory to himself.
See, that is where the psychological conviction is strongest. The feeling that you can literally manipulate or steer reality because you have access to the script. But this conviction that we possess prescient power is exactly what cognitive psychologists,
Right.
particularly people like Dr. Ann Cleary at Colorado State University, have been dedicated to studying for years.
Yeah, let's inject the necessary dose of cold reality here. The feeling of precognition is powerful, but is it? Is it real? Does déjà vu mean we can actually predict the future? Or are we just telling ourselves a cool, self-aggrandizing story after the fact?
Well, our reading suggests it's primarily the latter, unfortunately, for our cafeteria superhero.
Oh.
Cleary's foundational work established déjà vu as what we call a meta-memory phenomenon. Now, that might sound technical,
A little bit.
but it's simply subjective awareness of our own memories. It's like the tip of the tongue sensation, where you know the word, but the retrieval mechanism is broken.
Okay, I get that.
Déjà vu is the reverse. The retrieval mechanism is screaming, familiar, but the content file is missing.
So the brain fires the familiarity alert, the alarm bell goes off, but when it tries to find the source file, it comes up empty. The brain, confused, then tricks you into thinking the source must come from a future experience instead of an unrecalled past one.
That is the elegant psychological explanation. And Cleary didn't just speculate. She decided to test this feeling of prediction in a controlled environment. She cleverly recreated the déjà vu sensation in a lab setting using virtual reality.
How exactly did she pull that off? You can't just tell someone, okay, feel déjà vu now.
No, but you could exploit the spatial familiarity component. Participants were moved through virtual scenes like traversing a historical village or moving through a series of rooms. Crucially, some of the scenes were designed to have highly similar spatial layouts to previous, seemingly unrelated scenes they had already witnessed.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, think of it like walking into a kitchen that has the same counter placement as a bedroom they saw earlier, even though the decor is completely different.
And that spatial similarity triggers the déjà vu feeling.
In a high percentage of subjects? Yeah. Then came the moment of truth. They were asked two things. Are you experiencing déjà vu? And if they said yes, do you feel you know what the next object or turn in the dynamic video scene should be? Cleary's crucial insight came from analyzing the predictive power. She confirmed that about half the respondents felt a strong premonition, a profound belief that they knew exactly what would happen next.
But they were wrong.
They were consistently wrong. They were no more likely to guess the correct next turn or the correct next object than if they had chosen randomly.
Wow.
The conviction was absolute, but the factual predictive power was zero. The feeling of prediction is a powerful illusion, but it seems to be nothing more.
It's humbling, isn't it? The brain is so good at lying to us, and we are so desperately wired to believe the lie if it feels profound.
It connects to an even broader, more modern context in memory research. We used to view memory purely as a dusty record of the past, a storage drive.
Right.
But the current thinking is that memory is fundamentally adapted for helping us anticipate and navigate the future. So if a current scene spatially or contextually maps onto an old, unrecalled memory, that similarity triggers the familiarity signal.
And that signal, the past experience, gives us the sense of knowing what's next because the brain is saying, I recognize this blueprint, I know how this unfolds, so I can predict the next step, even if we can't consciously place the original memory.
It's an incredibly educated, confidence-boosting guess. An intense emotional certainty wrapped around a cognitive error.
It's talking about the confidence of that feeling. I'm wondering, what do you think? Have you ever had a deja vu so strong that it forced you to take an immediate action? Let us know. What do you think? Comment below.
Yeah, I'd love to read those.
All right, let's pivot hard from the cold reality of cognitive psychology back into the thick, unsettled atmosphere of potential prophecy. We're talking déjà vu, the feeling of having already dreamt the experience. This is where most people we read about believe their most intense and sometimes genuinely life-altering experiences originate.
And that makes sense, right? Because the source of the memory isn't just a fleeting sensory input. It's an entire, coherent narrative, a dream file filled with specific, sometimes bizarre, details that manifest in real life.
It feels less like a misfire and more like a pre-run of the day.
Exactly.
And nothing brings that home like the stories of tragedy averted. We absolutely have to start with a traffic collision averted by the user Titanium Penguin 777. This story is genuinely chilling and demonstrates the sheer terrifying power of the predictive sensation.
It's a classic cinematic scenario. The user recounts having this intensely vivid, detailed dream. He and his dad were driving, doing something mundane like running errands.
Okay.
They were having a specific conversation about their plans, and he noted passing several very specific landmarks. The whole thing was perfectly banal, until the final act.
The dream ended in terror. At a particular intersection, they were brutally hit by a red Honda, and the collision happened specifically in front of a Raising Cane's restaurant.
And he died in the dream. Woke up in, like, a hospital scenario. It was the kind of trauma dream you try to shake off quickly.
But the subconscious had done its job. About a month later, real life started mirroring the dream with impossible precision.
Oh, no.
He's in the car with his dad. They are having the exact same conversation, discussing the exact plans, and they're passing the exact landmarks mentioned in the dream. The scene is unfolding perfectly, terrifyingly.
The moment the brain realizes it's living the nightmare blueprint, that memory conviction becomes an immediate, desperate survival tool.
Totally. As they approached the final fatal intersection, the one leading up to the Raising Cane's, he started completely freaking out, recognizing every single element, every roadside sign, every building facade.
He was conscious of the déjà vu, but unlike the typical feeling which just melts away, this one was layered with dread. He had to stop the script from running its tragic conclusion.
And despite his dad being completely unhurried, not understanding the meltdown, the user forced him to stop before the intersection. Turn on the hazard lights. Just wait.
Just stop the car.
He told his dad, we are not moving. We are going to sit here and wait out this red light, no matter what, even if it turns green.
And then, horrifying payoff.
I swear you cannot write this stuff. They sat there for maybe 30 seconds, and a red Honda absolutely blew through the red light at terrifying speed, crashing exactly where their car would have been sitting.
No way.
This user literally credits a terrifying dream and the subsequent intense déjà vu flash for saving his and his father's lives. That is a definition of a main character moment.
Literally rewriting reality based on an internal cognitive error. It's hard to just shrug that off as a simple brain misfire.
You can't. It is the pinnacle of the convincing narrative. It feels like prophecy, even if the clinical explanation requires, contortions to explain the precision of the details.
And when the details are that sharp and the consequence is death, the feeling is all that matters.
Right. Now, let's go for a slightly less bloody, but equally high-stakes story. The Boy Scout log.
Ah, yes.
He was camping in Colorado, sitting in one of those classic rickety canvas wall tents, the kind where the canvas is just draped over a thin metal frame.
Okay, I can picture it.
He's having a relaxed conversation with his friend Peter, who is conveniently telling him a story about how he got a concussion the summer before.
Talk about foreshadowing.
Seriously, suddenly the deja vu hits him like a lightning bolt, an urgent, immediate flash of images. He sees an enormous log come tearing through the canvas wall, and he could vividly feel the violent jolt, his teeth smashing together as the log assaulted his head.
Wow.
He was so convinced by the feeling that he jumped away from his seat, rolling awkwardly onto the floor, feeling completely ridiculous for being so dramatic.
And that feeling of ridiculousness, that momentary pause where the consciousness registers the false memory, that's what saved him.
Immediately after he bailed out, an enormous thick log crashed through the canvas and landed precisely on his cot, right where his head would have been.
Oh my God.
Turns out some fellow scouts, being the geniuses they were struggling to carry a heavy bench and decided to roll it end over end down the hill.
Oh no.
And one bad push sent the entire thing flying, log first, straight into their wall tent. Had he not had that flash of warning, he would have had his own concussion story to share.
It is uncanny how often this predictive element seems to surface in moments of potential danger. You have to wonder if, when the brain registers that high familiarity signal, it prioritizes immediate defensive survival functions over the leisurely process of memory retrieval.
It's like it triggers fight or flight based on a non-existent threat memory.
Just like that.
Now, some of these déjà vu stories are just purely bizarre and dissociative. They lack the life-saving element, but highlight the mind, the sheer construction power. Take the story from one user. He was 13 or 14, sitting at his desk, doing homework, supposedly eating dinner.
A perfectly normal, unexciting scene, which often seems to be the trigger for these big moments.
Totally. He had about half his dinner finished when his mom knocks and comes in holding his dinner plate freshly prepared.
Wait, what?
He was completely confused and asked why she was bringing him food when he was already eating it.
Yeah.
He was genuinely frustrated, thinking, I just started this plate, Mom.
But the reality was...
His mom patiently pointed out that she had literally just finished cooking dinner and there was no food on his desk whatsoever. He looked down, and his half-finished plate, the fork, the sensory memory of the taste, it had all vanished.
So the desk was completely empty.
Completely empty. He had completely dissociated his sensory experience. He believed he was eating, tasting, and seeing the food only for reality to snap back and reveal the desk was bare. The false memory was so powerful, it created a virtual reality inside his head.
That kind of severe sensory break, where the false memory overrides physical reality, is fascinating and kind of scary. It shows that the brain is not just confused about where the memory came from, it's constructing an entire, fully realized internal world based on that phantom file.
One final, wildly specific example, just to underline the pure absurdity of the detail in these dreams. The flapper, the banana, and Harrison Ford.
I love this one.
This one makes me laugh every time.
It's so arbitrary. There's no deep meaning, just cosmic coincidence.
The user had a dream full of these three random, specific, and totally unrelated images. A woman dressed in flapper clothes, him eating a banana, and the face of Harrison Ford.
Okay.
The next day, he's chilling at his aunt's beach house far from home. His mom, trying to protect her newly highlighted blonde hair from the wind, puts on a funny sun hat, looks down at her shadow and says, "Huh, I look like a flapper."
Detail number 1.
Weird, but okay.
Shrugged off, but weird.
Huh.
Detail number 2. His mom reaches into her beach bag rummaging for something and pulls out a single, slightly bruised banana.
Oh, come on.
Roheen is starting to freak out internally at this point.
Two extremely specific, random details from a dream manifesting in the same environment within minutes. That would trigger a full panic attack in me. And then the kicker. His mom pulls out a TV guide, which belonged to the aunt, so he hadn't seen it, and staring up from the cover, bold and center, is Harrison freaking Ford.
No way.
Flapper, banana, Harrison Ford, all three totally arbitrary dream details manifesting in a single day at the beach house. You can't make this stuff up, and that specificity is why these stories gain such traction.
They force us to conclude that either the brain is capable of mapping out the most mundane and random future events, or the spatial and contextual similarities that trigger déjà vu are far more nuanced than we currently understand. Either way, it's mind-bending.
Right. We've spent most of our time tonight talking about the fleeting, intense, but ultimately temporary nature of déjà vu. But what happens when the glitch isn't brief? when it becomes persistent or when the feeling is shared between two people.
Before we move into the truly pathological or unsettling side, I want to briefly revisit the idea of finding comfort in this phenomenon,
Yeah.
because some cultural and psychological perspectives offer a beautiful, reassuring take on it.
The Ojibwe teaching is truly beautiful.
It is. Our reading mentioned that for the Ojibwe people, deja vu is seen not as a glitch, but as the spirit running ahead of you in time to make sure everything is sorted out.
Hmm.
When you experience that flash of familiarity, it's the spirit giving you a nod, reassuring you you're on the right path, right where you belong.
That is such a lovely, low-stakes interpretation of what Western science is constantly trying to pathologize. And that belief actually offered comfort to one individual we read about who experienced deja vu at both of his parents' funerals.
Which is such a unique, deeply painful, and absolutely non-repeatable event. Why would your brain say, I've seen this before, during your father's eulogy?
Exactly. But for this person, the cultural and psychological context shifted the meaning. It eliminated the panic and instead offered assurance that the passing, the grief, and the subsequent life journey were meant to happen.
That life would unfold as it was supposed to.
It's an incredible psychological mechanism of reassurance. One psychoanalyst even suggested we should call it encore vu seen again, rather than seen before.
Seen again. I like that.
It implies you went through all this once before, you survived, and you came out well. The same will happen this time.
That need to exert control, or at least find acceptance within a confusing moment, is clearly powerful. Joseph Heller captured that urge perfectly in Catch-22. He described the chaplain who frequently experienced the sensation, and he said the chaplain would immediately try to predict and perhaps even control what incident would occur next, only for the moment to melt away, exactly as he had known it would.
That desire to grab hold of the timeline is so powerful, but it's always elusive. Now, let's move into the truly scary territory. If deja vu becomes frequent, prolonged, or is accompanied by other physical or emotional symptoms, our reading notes that it crosses into the pathological realm.
Right. It's often linked to serious, localized neurological conditions. The most known link, and the one most consistently backed by clinical data, is to temporal lobe epilepsy, or TLE. And it's crucial to understand that not all seizures involve the classic visible symptoms like shaking or losing consciousness. Some are highly localized focal aware seizures, sometimes called simple partial seizures, restricted entirely to the temporal lobe.
So the seizure manifests not as a motor function failure, but as a pure cognitive misfire, a flood of false memory instead of a physical convulsion.
Exactly. TLE is often linked specifically to deep brain structures like the amygdala, which handles emotion, and the hippocampus, the memory core. A seizure in this region floods the familiarity circuits. The person is fully aware, but their world suddenly feels like a scene they've been in before, and it can be terrifying.
We heard from one user who experienced this exact frightening situation, which was eventually diagnosed as TLE. They would relapse into these frequent moments of reliving detailed, very recent dreams vividly while awake,
Well, wait.
often seeing the moment in third person like they were watching a movie about themselves doing the dishes.
Imagine being awake, completely lucid, and suddenly your dream state memory kicks in so strongly that it overrides your perception of the present. The user described it as feeling like they had lived this before, and the frequency and intensity required a medical intervention.
Yeah.
The link between TLE and deja vu is so strong that clinicians sometimes use reports of sudden, persistent deja vu as an early indicator that a patient might have undiagnosed focal seizures.
Then you have the deeply unsettling stories where deja vu is paired with intense, dark emotional states that precede a genuinely bad outcome. One user reported that their deja vu moments always came with this intense, debilitating feeling of impending doom and dread.
And this wasn't just generalized anxiety layered on top of a false memory. She claimed that, without fail, something terrible always happened afterward.
Like what?
Whether it was a suicide in her immediate community, a tragic accident, or a financial collapse that struck her family. It transformed her deja vu from a quirky phenomenon into a dreaded, high-stakes warning sign.
That would be exhausting to live with.
Yep.
But the most extreme clinical cases are the people who are essentially trapped in this feeling, where the phenomenon is chronic rather than fleeting. We looked at a truly heartbreaking case study of a 23-year-old man who suffered from what was termed persistent psychogenic deja vu for 3 long years.
3 years! 3 years of never feeling like anything was new, like the present was permanently broken. That is horrifying. It sounds like a true psychological torture.
He was trapped in a self-described time loop. His condition was so severe that it impacted every aspect of his daily life. He couldn't watch television, read a new book, or even look at the newspaper because his brain would instantly tag all that new input as old.
Convinced he had already experienced it all.
Yeah.
This was ultimately linked to severe anxiety and depersonalization disorder, where you feel detached from your own body and thoughts.
It's so sad.
What makes this case especially insightful for scientists is that despite the chronic, debilitating nature of the false memory, the man maintained full insight. He was fully aware that the memory was false.
So he knew his brain was lying to him.
He knew, which distinguishes his condition from patients with severe dementia who often experience chronic déjà vu, but genuinely rationalize the illusion as true memory. His brain was constantly lying to him, and he knew it was a lie, which made the condition psychologically agonizing.
It's the difference between being deceived and being trapped in a conscious deception. Just exhausting.
Before we wrap up tonight, I want to gently guide us back to the slightly more comforting side, the shared human experience, specifically shared déjà vu.
The couple on the same cosmic frequency.
Yes, exactly. The user and their partner. Over 5 years, they reported experiencing déjà vu at the exact same time, dozens of times.
That's incredible.
They'd be at a dinner or watching a movie, and they would turn to each other, both saying déjà vu simultaneously.
So scientists would obviously point to external similarities in their environment, triggering a simultaneous misfire in two similarly wired brains, really.
Of course. But the feeling itself speaks to an incredible level of psychological and cognitive synchronicity. And this is where, as storytellers, we can let go of the rigid science for a minute. The sheer randomness of the world means two brains experiencing the same subtle environmental or spatial trigger, say, a specific lighting, the sound of a fork hitting a plate, and a distant siren, at the exact same moment, creating an identical error. But the romantic interpretation that they are simply on the same frequency and meant to be together is undeniably compelling.
It provides the feeling that your life is aligning with someone else's in a mysterious way, and that emotional connection is profoundly comforting, regardless of the neurological mechanism.
Exactly.
We've covered everything tonight, from escaping near-fatal traffic accidents by a split second to the absurdity of Harrison Ford showing up on a TV guide cover in an obscure beach house.
What a journey.
What really sticks with me, though, is the sheer individuality and specificity of these experiences. The Boy Scout remembering the exact angle of the log, the man remembering the exact position of the furniture, the rocking chairs in the Appalachians, all these hyper-specific details.
They serve as powerful proof that our memories are highly subjective, beautifully flawed, and fundamentally tied to our sense of reality. Déjà vu forces us to confront the fact that we don't experience reality as a raw video feed. We experience it as a constantly edited, reconstructed, and occasionally mistagged narrative.
And what's the most crucial, comforting, scientific takeaway you want to leave with the listener tonight? The thing that allows us to relax and not worry about time travel?
I think it's that while déjà vu is technically a malfunction of recognition, a memory failure, it's most often benign and temporary in healthy people. We need to remember that the subjective feeling that you are on the right track or that your life is unfolding as it should be is incredibly powerful and offers immense psychological relief.
Right.
Even if the feeling of prediction is an illusion, the reassurance it offers is very, very real.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to mull over as you wrap up your night. If déjà vu is simply a fleeting, non-pathological experience in healthy people, often occurring in moments of mental fatigue, stress, or when the brain is processing complex new input.
Could this misfire actually be an unintentional neurological stress coping mechanism?
It's a built-in defense system.
Exactly. Could the brain, when faced with overwhelming novelty or pressure, accidentally trigger that familiarity signal simply to reassure us, hey, I recognize this framework. You got this. You've done it before, so there's no need to panic.
That's a fascinating potential purpose for a false memory, not to confuse, but to comfort. A quiet, internal, neural hug.
And a neural hug. I love it.
What an elegant thought to end on. And hey, if you're enjoying these deep dives and you appreciate us spending time going through this kind of weird and wonderful research, take a brief moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Please do.
We're a small channel, and we would absolutely love to have you join our community.
Thanks for diving deep with us tonight. Rest well, and let us know your craziest déjà vu stories in the comments. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.